and welcome back to another My Next Match and IMMAF special preview and review show with myself, Andreas, Georgiou, and Jorden, Curran, of course, representing IMMAF. And after the very mild success of our first show, review, preview show, which Danny Core actually watched. Fantastic to see him share that and comment. And he actually left comments which proved he watched it, which is even more important. So big thank you, Danny.
We did tell him to watch it. We did tell him to watch it.
We did, and he actually did. He followed up. So really grateful of Danny to do that. Thank you. But yeah, we are back with another preview and review. Day 2 wrapped up about 5 hours ago at the Khalifa Sports City Arena. It's just a mouthful, that is, isn't it? Khalifa Sports City Arena. Big mouthful.
It rolls off.
Rolls off the tongue. And lots of interesting results today to talk about, which we'll get to in a second. Of course, we're going to preview Day 3, which is quarter-finals day of the 2017 IMMAF World Championships. Can't believe quarter-finals are upon us already. It just feels like yesterday that it was getting ready for registration, and now we're pretty much halfway through the tournament.
Yeah, we have over 250 athletes, and yeah, they're really starting to whittle it down now, and like the cream is rising to the top, as they say. But yes, we're still only halfway through the week. Finals are on Saturday, but yeah, we're gonna get there. It's gonna start going quicker as the days roll on, I think.
So before we kick off, earlier today we were kind of talking about the European athletes. They've not had a very good day today. I spoke to Krista Ringblom from Team Sweden. I believe they went 5-5 today, which isn't the best for
unusual for Sweden.
Unusual, exactly, for a Swedish team which we've seen dominate day in, day out at the European Championships and other continental events. They've come here and it's been a mixed bag for them, really. Why do you feel that the Europeans have struggled when you compare them to the likes of the Australians, who did very well on Day 2, Kazakhstan, and the United States of America as well?
I'm finding it hard to explain. You know, Sweden, countries that have state support and government funding, you'll see rising to the top and coming through. And Sweden didn't just dominate continentals; they were the top team at last year's World Championships as well. They became the number 1 ranked nation by a long way. I think their gold medalists, the ones who are really leading the line for them: Cornelia Holm, Gabriela Ringblom, Rostem Akman. Some of the others are still around, the guys who are still in the tournament, and they've got newcomers as well. But they're like the faces of that team. Like, they're phasing out now, and there's new people coming in, and it can be hard to live up to people who are like getting gold medals like that. Not everyone can be doing it for the team every time. I don't know, who else did you say again? Was it just Sweden or other teams?
Sweden. Well, Finland struggled yesterday as well. Speaking to Heikki. Again, I think Emil Krahela is one that stands out, a very promising young prospect, and he lost via rear naked choke. So it just seems that these teams that we know have been successful, including Bulgaria, who today as well, I think Dilian Georgiev was victorious, but I'm not sure if anyone else was. They've got their female contestant competing tomorrow, but it's not the Sweden and the Bulgaria we know, the number 1 and number 2 ranked seeds. And I just feel like the dynamic of this, a very weird dynamic of having a very first time Kazakhstan team come to a world championship. Of course, we saw them for the first time in Asia, but this is the first time they've brought a group of athletes en masse to an event like this, and it's really, really shaking things up.
Yeah, I say Finland. I think they got some more to come. They got Anita Rosberg to come. I think they have a heavyweight lad as well. Yeah, they had some Jussi Pratingas, who we've already talked about. Wasn't successful today, but he was looking good. I thought this could be Finland's year to really come back again after they did pretty well in 2015. Kazakhstan is another team that I touched on how government funding can bring you to the top, and Kazakhstan get some government funding. They had some representatives talking about it at today's post-event press conference, just saying how it enables them to really build a dynamic and a foundation to really build up their athletes. And it's proven to look phenomenal. They've been fantastic. Bulgaria, my personal thoughts from Bulgaria is their top names. I think guys like Nikolov, Toncheva, Daniel Galabarov, Toncheva and Galabarov, they're not here at the moment. Galabarov won European gold medals, first 3-time European Open gold medalists, with two other athletes that got it at the same time. Toncheva, world champion, 2 or 3-time European Open, 2-time European champion. They're not here. And Nikolai Mintsiev, sorry, I'm butchering his name there. He was their team coach. He moved away from the team, and he was the guy who brought through a lot of these athletes. He had a very close connection to them. I'm not so familiar with their current coach, but I can't help but feel like that could have impacted it somehow, because the guys who are most closely associated to him are now phasing out. And it's just part of that process, similar to Sweden. It's going to be so hard to bring through people who can emulate people like Toncheva and Galabarov.
Well, you've still got Tanas Krastanov as well, who's going to be competing in the super heavyweight division. So it's certainly not down and out for Bulgaria by any stretch of the imagination. It kind of reminds me of, you have a really good national squad in football. You've had a lot of success for many years, and then all of a sudden, like Brazil is an absolute great example of that. I think France as well you can use. Great success, winning World Cups, winning European Cups. All of a sudden, your players get old, they retire, and you have to build. And then all of a sudden, you've got one Neymar in the squad and not many other good players to play around him. And I think that's potentially what we're seeing here with Sweden and Bulgaria, who are rebuilding now that their key players like Gabriela Ringblom, Cornelia Holm, and for Bulgaria, Toncheva as well, amongst others, have now moved on. So it's an interesting dynamic. Who knows? We could be completely wrong. By the end of it, Bulgaria and Sweden could be standing very tall on the podium, and we could just be looking like egg on our faces. But it's certainly an interesting dynamic here at the 2017 IMMAF Worlds. Okay, let's kick off now our review of day 2 of the World Championships. As usual, we have our list right in front of us of the fights that impressed us, or the fights that we'd like to highlight to the viewers and listeners who are keeping up with us wherever you are in the world. The first one we have is Nishiganda Rao of Team India, India's first ever female participant, and she got a split decision victory over Daria Slechchenkova from Team Russia. I spoke to Alan Fernandez afterwards, who is the national head coach of Team India. Extremely proud not only to have first ever female representative, but to get their first ever victory at a World Championship as well. And it was very groundbreaking for Team India as well. We kind of mentioned her briefly in the day 1/day 2 preview. And do you feel that she's lived up to the hype? There's not a lot of footage around her, but there was a lot of talk coming out of India that she was certainly one to keep an eye on.
I do feel that my hype of her was justified actually after the result. I didn't catch the full bout, but as Alan said in the press conference he attended as well, it's a big day of firsts for India. The group of young Indian girls debuted for their nation for the first time, first women to do so. Rao picked up their first ever World Championships victory, as you said, and I built up her striking. Look what she's been known for. This is the first time we've been able to see it, and I'm told it worked. She was outpointing Daria throughout the whole fight. She was landing high switch kicks, and I believe in the last round when Daria did get the takedown in the end, Rao actually ended up taking her back, getting both hooks in, and just securing position for the last minute of the bout, doing what she needed to do to keep it there, so that she didn't have to risk anything getting back up. She ground out that unanimous decision. That's super impressive against a physical Russian opponent, a bigger opponent as well, and just it's phenomenal. It's like really lived up to expectations coming in.
Yeah. Team India, make no mistake about it, they're probably not going to win gold, and that's not my words. That's the words of Alan Fernandez, the head coach, because he's very grounded, he's very down to earth. Yeah. He understands that the sport is still progressing and the sport is still developing under the All India Mixed Martial Arts Association as well. And look, I think already it's achievement enough that they've got their first win in a championship, and they've had their first female participant as well.
He wants to... I spoke to him on the coach on the way home. He really wants to make the most out of this. He wants to get this team to go as far as they possibly can. The All India Mixed Martial Arts Association is one of the IMMAF members that has national recognition from the Indian government, but I don't believe that they have funding to develop athletes. Alan was saying he needs to take these guys as far as they can, and he needs to take it home to become one of those teams like Sweden, like Kazakhstan, who get national funding to develop the talent. And remember, they could be a sleeping giant. They've got over a billion people in India. If you're talking participation, that can be quite a lot, even for just a fragment of the sports participating, part of the sports population of the country. Yeah. So I'm so tired.
It's all right. We tend to just film these really late at night just because we've got so much to do in the day. But yeah, Nishiganda Rao, big victory for her. Moving on, Hussein Abdullah, of course, Bahrain, the jewel of Bahrain, as you've called him on a few occasions. Big win against Fabrizio Barbosa of Brazil, a submission victory as well. And crowd erupted during this fight because he was under a lot of pressure early on, Hussein Abdullah. Barbosa, we know that Brazilian style, especially with the Muay Thai style. Very good at pressing, very good at, causing problems for anybody who isn't really used to that very aggressive style of stand-up. And Abdullah took a bit of time to readjust to the setting of that fight. But once he got a takedown, he looked absolutely great. And although Barbosa had a brief period of trying to switch around, Abdullah pulled this beautiful pull-down guillotine. I'm not sure what the official term for that would be, pulling guillotine or whatever you want to call it. Barbosa managed to escape it, but it was pretty much the beginning and the end. He put so much pressure on Barbosa, kept going. He was just relentless, and eventually he got the submission victory, and the whole of the Khalifa Sports City Arena just erupted in support of the jeweler of Bahrain. He was kind of the guy that before the tournament we were highlighting, if anyone was going to be successful, it was going to be Hussein Abdullah, just for the fact that he has worked on himself so much through a number of IMMAF tournaments, and you can genuinely see there is progression there. You can see he's got better every single time.
I'm glad you caught it. I was over photographing another cage. As you say, the arena popped for him. I think if I was going to pick Bahrain fighters to progress further, I think I would have picked some of the adopted Russians that they have. But nevertheless, Hussein Abdullah, as I say, he really is the jewel of the amateur MMA scene. He is the face of it. The crowd popped the most for him. He's been around the longest. He's shown so much progression from like not medaling, but then he has picked up bronzes along the way as well. And he beat David Fagati, who he'd previously lost to at the World Championships, and he beat David in the Europeans. And now, who would have thought coming into this, or like 12 months ago, even less, that you'd have a fighter from Bahrain beating a Brazilian from an established Brazilian camp as well. So that's just goes to show like the talent development that can happen in some of these countries, where if some of these countries put some funding into their athletes, they can produce guys like Abdullah. It's fantastic.
I think we had a brief discussion about this the other day, but gold medals for Bahrain, should we expect them? I feel that it's bound to happen. I feel there's definitely a few who are more than deserving to get that, and the way that the brackets have been going so far, then it's pretty much anyone's game, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you've got the experience or not.
Yeah, you can talk about whether or not we expect them, but the Bahrain team, they want them, and they really believe that they can get them as well. And as these tournaments are playing out and some of their guys are progressing through, looking really strong against nations like Brazil, this like who's to say they're not going to make it? I think they're going to have. I think they're going to have a few finalists, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm in full agreement. I've been very, very impressed by Bahrain so far, and it's only on day 2, so who knows what else we can expect. Anyway, moving on, another Bahraini guy which links the conversation brilliantly is Gamzat Magomedov, who is an adopted Russian, as you kind of alluded to there. He beat a guy who's been getting a lot of heat just because he's such a talented individual. He's huge for the weight class as well. Team Kazakhstan's Nurtalek, Kuktulai, and Gamzat did really well there, got the submission victory. And I believe you saw that very closely. Were you photographing this one?
No, I wasn't photographing this one.
You weren't photographing this one. I'm sure we can still talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it because it is a very significant fight. Nurtalek has got a pretty good sambo background. There's been some confusion about his record, as you alluded to, him taking some heat. He had a bout recorded as professional on Sherdog.com. It was actually a combat sambo bout. When you start looking into these websites, amateurs are often listed as professionals,
especially on Sherdog.
It was a big thing on mixedmartialarts.com as well. It's not so much on Topology. Topology are pretty solid, but not free of mistakes by any means. IMMAF looks into all guys registered who come up as professional on these websites, but these websites aren't regulated, and there's a whole world of obscure MMA out there from places like Dagestan, where this event took place, this Sambo event. But so yeah, he takes a bit of heat for that. But he's all amateur, and he's a former world silver medalist from 2015. He had a pretty good go of it against Jose Torres as well. And he was looking real good again coming into this, just as good as he did at the 2015 World Championships. And yeah, Gamzat slept him, I believe. Really wish I caught it. That's one of the bouts I circled on the schedule at the start of the day. I was on the cage next to it, but that is another one of the biggest upsets so far. Yeah. I know Gamzat has been a standout on the continental IMMAF scene so far this year, but Nurtalek coming in and showing he's as good as he was in 2015. But that's a big win. Another huge win for Bahrain. Maybe the biggest.
Okay, well, it wouldn't be a discussion with me and you without talking about a bit of controversy. So let's get straight into it. One of the biggest talking points of day 2 was a bout between Team UK's Ashley Williams and another Kazakh, Beksat Zazia. And originally the decision stood as a decision in favour of the Kazakhstani fighter. However, after a reviews process, a judicial process by IMMAF, that was overturned. Jorden, can you just kind of explain what happened and why that process was actually needed?
Oh, I was actually on a different cat. No, I'm kidding. No, I was there for this one, front and centre. So I believe during the second round, Ashley Williams, who was just doing some wizardry from the bottom, he caught Bezkat in an armbar from the bottom. He was cinching it in. The Kazakhstani lad, he stood up. His back was to me, so I couldn't see either way. But Ashley suddenly let go of the hold. The UK corner erupted, but the bout continued, and everyone was quite confused. Ash was quite confused, trying to carry on the fight at the same time. Then Chris Reese and Nigel Burgess, pretty confused in the corner. They were 100% certain that he tapped. I couldn't say either way. The round ended, the bout continued. Ash was all over the place in the corner. He was telling the cut woman he tapped. Telling everyone he could look at. Coach Chris Reese just calmed him down, told him to forget about irrelevant now. You got to carry on that fight. Chris has been an amazing addition to this camp. He's phenomenal in the corner. He carried on the bout. He lost the unanimous decision. That I thought he should have won it anyway. To be honest, that's not me being biased. I missed the first round, caught the last two. I think he won the last 2 rounds. To be honest, from his work from the bottom, the knee bars he was going for, all kinds of transitions. It was beautiful to watch. But they appealed the result. They asked if they could appeal it. IMMAF does have an appeals process that's very different from the regular MMA. This is a tournament format, and they got hold of the bout footage to look into. It was presented to the IMMAF CEO, Densheim White, head official Mark Goddard. It could clearly be seen that he did indeed tap. Very clear, not one of these little subtle one taps. That it was a very clear tap. I believe IMMAF have made the decision to overturn it to a victory for Ashley, but as part of the process, the evidence was presented to Kazakhstan's team for a rebuttal, and they quite brilliantly, wholeheartedly accepted it. Their team leader, their head coach, saw the footage and was like, "Take that victory. There's nothing I can say." So great sportsmanship and. A big win for Ashley Williams. It's a shame he had to take a little extra damage and carry on in the bout, but it's 250 fighters. There's a lot of fights each day, and these things are going to happen sometimes. You can't knock the referees too much. I think every top referee's made a mistake similar in the past during their career, so it's unfortunate, but the right thing happened in the end through a pretty groundbreaking appeals process, because like a lot of professionals and other amateurs couldn't do the same.
I don't even know if it's controversial, because it's not about the fact that there's 250 fights. I think if you watch the footage, and I've seen it, Chris Reese showed me earlier, firstly it's the angle where the armbar is. It's basically the fighter Zazier's back is to the referee. So, firstly, he's the referee's vision's blocked by that. The way the arm is caught as well is blocked by that. And the fact that it wasn't like 3 massive taps. They're subtle taps, but they're significant enough that you can say in this process, the guy tapped. He tapped out. So, I saw a lot of people being really harsh, like, how can this officiating happen at this level of the grandest stage of them all? In the world of amateur mixed martial arts. Look, there's a lot of factors into this, and I see this, at pro level, let alone amateur level. So, it's unfortunate it happened, as you said, Jorden, and completely shadow that. But it's great to see that this process is in play by IMMAF, where if a result which is incorrect does happen, and a fighter has been robbed of an opportunity, then that is replaced and that is given back to the fighter. So all credit to IMMAF there, and of course Ashley Williams from the Chris Reese Academy. He moves forward into day 3, the quarterfinals as well. So moving on, Curran Clark is another name that we've highlighted here, where he defeated the Asian Open champion Tobias Harila via unanimous decision. These two guys have actually fought before, and it was quite a convincing win for Tobias Harila in the Europeans. He won via round 2 TKO. Not today though, not in Bahrain. Curran Clark looks like a new fighter, doesn't he? He has just come on leaps and bounds under the IMMAF banner.
Yeah, leaps and bounds in a short period of time since he competed in Sofia. I was talking to his coach, Connor Dillon. I said the difference from him now, from what he was doing in Sofia, he was a good contender in Sofia as well. But he's looking like a world beater now. He just avenged a loss to Tobias Harila, one of Sweden's top names, the silver medalist in Sofia as well, and it's a coming-of-age performance in terms of his whole progression through the tournament here from Curran Clark. He's relentless in there with his takedowns. It's like a completely new, just really evolved. Like what amateur MMA is all about. As I say, no one's finished, everyone's progressing, and just overnight someone can just hit that little progression stream and just do some great work like what Curran's doing here.
Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of like coming of age, isn't it? Because as an amateur athlete, you have to kind of find your pace, find the style that suits you, and that's what amateur sport's about. So you don't have to make these mistakes when you go pro. Spoke to Scott Pedersen, after his loss, and I said, Scott, how many times as a pro can you say without, any worry in the back of your mind that you've already travelled to a different country, you've already fought a very difficult foreign fighter? Because in pro, that has a lot more stake. You lose one fight, and who knows how much that's going to play into the progression of your career. At amateur, realistically, you see a lot of level-headed guys and girls. And they all admit, look, the key importance is experience and progressing. And look, you're in a tournament. Only one person in each bracket, and that's 14 brackets, can go undefeated in that tournament. So out of 250 competitors, 14 are the only ones who can go undefeated in the tournament. There is very little pressure on the undefeated streaks in amateur. I know there are some people that do take it a bit too seriously, I think, but
it's easy to get hung up on. It's such a big thing in combat sports, in boxing and in MMA. And as we often say, MMA evolved backwards from that pro scene. So the amateurs becoming amateur with so much influence of what they've watched in pro MMA. Some still get hung up on having an O on their record, but as so many of the guys and girls are showing here this week, you can have multiple losses on your record, and then you can just hit a great streak when things start coming together.
Yeah, and exactly what Curran Clark's been doing. Very interested to see him continue to progress. And as you say on the O, look, the greatest IMMAF competitor in history, Jose Shorty Torres, lost his first amateur fight. And he's gone on to become a 2-division champion in Titan FC. And as he said the other week as well, the UFC are coming calling for him now. So, look, it's not that important. It really isn't. It's about evolution. It's about development. It's about finding who you are inside that cage. So we've seen that from Curran Clark, and hopefully we continue to see that from the young Irishman as well. Last fight that we want to talk about in the review stage of this program, and that, of course, is Mjolnir's Bjorn Lucas Haraldsson, who just keeps impressing every single time. So much energy from him in the first round of the competition, and we saw that exactly again against Fionn Healy-Maguire, who is no walkover by any stretch of the imagination, the SBG Ireland competitor. First round TKO for Bjorn Lucas, and the sole Icelandic representative continues to roll forward. I think I saw a really cool analogy from you earlier on Twitter when we shared the picture. What was it exactly you said?
I called him the one-man raid.
The one-man raid.
The Viking raid, the Lone Raider, maybe. I might switch it up to that. And another example of a guy in Bjorn from Mjolnir, another person who's got some losses on his record, and he's come in here and he's had a phenomenal first round bout, and now he's come in against Fionn, who, as you say, people know from in the UK and Ireland, who's a strong guy. He looked very good himself in his first bout, beating the Eliza Cabanza, African Open champion, and it's just another example of how you can take an established name, they can get totally outclassed by an athlete, and then that fighter can then progress to get completely outclassed themselves. You just the talent level, as we say, is rising every year, but really noticing it here, and Bjorn's just putting it together fantastically. Head kick KO at the end of the round against Fionn after quite outclassing him, to be quite honest. I spoke to Fionn when he was getting dinner, and he was very humble in the defeat. I complimented his performance. He hung in there as much as he could. He's got a chin on him, and I think he's going to have a good future as well. Can be sure that he's going to really develop at SBG. And yeah, it was a battle of the allies. Yeah. It was in a good way, though. Yeah, it was a compelling narrative, a lot of respect, and really excited by Bjorn. He's one of the most exciting people coming through in this championships.
That wraps up our review section of day 2. So let's talk about the day 3 fights, which is probably today by the time this has been uploaded and you guys are watching it. So who should they watch out for? Well, we have made you a lovely, compelling little list of fights which we feel will tickle your fancy, and we've got a bit of a paradoxical comparison here, because we have Joanne Doyle moving down to bantamweight and Julia Dorney moving up to lightweight, and two former foes. They fought in the 2016 European Open final to decide the featherweight gold medalist, and Joanne Doyle from Team UK, she's the one that walked away with the gold, and now she's going to try and do it in a second division. So let's talk about her fight first. Arziku Bregu, arguably one of Italy's most established and most experienced amateur talents, and it's going to be no walkover for Joanne Doyle. Her first bantamweight fight on the UK scene, she actually lost the decision. So she's going to come here to Bahrain with lots to prove. And a girl in Arziku who, from my recollection, is a very frustrating fighter for any opponent.
Yeah, she could be quite frustrating. She has quite an unorthodox style in the way she likes to move as well. So it's definitely a test for Joanne. Coming down, she says she loses the weight no problem. She told me she diets through her camp and she'll turn up on weight, and hopefully that is the case, and she can do a good job here. And Arziku will be a good test for her, I believe. Jo likes to get in and get those takedowns. She can stand up as well. I think her best game is getting those takedowns and really pinning her opponents down. Arziku is more of a striker as well. So we've got Joanne coming down, and we've got Julia Dorney going up in weight. She was always quite a big featherweight herself. She would cut weight at these tournaments, which isn't advisable when it's back-to-back days. But she's going up and facing Isabel Hristova. I'm very bad with some of these Bulgarian names, sorry.
You nailed that. You nailed that one, mate. That was good.
Are you sure? Have you heard someone else say it?
I heard myself say it in my head. Okay. Is that good enough? I can't wait for that MC to say it. I love how he pronounces names. We'll let him go. But that's an interesting little story to that bout in itself. Two national judo standouts there. Julia Dorney, a very experienced judo competitor in the German Bundesliga. Black belt, been competing since child, and so has her opponent, I believe, from what I've looked up of her as well. Won some national titles in Bulgaria, so that's going to be very interesting, especially as Julia seems she prefers to strike these days. Doesn't turn to her judo as much as I would like her to. I don't understand. I'm always seeing her in the fights and thinking that's a perfect opportunity for Julia to judo, because we've seen how good she is with her judo.
And I've said to her, the moments when I've seen her implement her judo in a fight, it's been flawless. She won a fight in 13 seconds, I believe it was, by using her judo in the opening moments. She had a tough bout against Joanne Doyle. She was getting taken down because she was striking, and the round that she won is when she countered Joanne with her judo, and Joanne couldn't get off the floor. So obviously she knows what's best for her, and so do her coaches. Germany have teamed up with Austria for this campaign, and she's really liking the Austrian coaches and what they bring to her game. So we'll see how she does, and wish them all the best of luck.
Can she achieve her childhood dream of winning gold medal? Well, she's assured me that she can. So we'll have to see there a very interesting dynamic in comparison there between Joanne Doyle and Julia Dorney, two female participants, two women participants to definitely keep an eye out on day 3. Another fight. I am so excited to talk about this man, and I'm even more excited to see him in action. Every time I've walked past him this week, he's giving me a pat on the shoulder, he's smiling, he's looking happy, he is ready to go. He is the Triple Crown IMMAF champion, the defending world champion, and the pound for pound number 1, Urman Smajic of Sweden. And we are going to see him back in the heavyweight brackets against, I want to pronounce this correctly, Delano Human of South Africa. I hope I've done that right. We're terrible with names anyway, so it doesn't matter. But how excited are you to see Urman back? I feel like it's just every time you don't see him, and every time you're waiting for the next IMMAF championship, he's one of the main reasons, he's one of the main focuses. in terms of anticipation.
Yeah. Erman, as you say, he's a great character. He's very popular around here. He's excited to make history. He says his favourite accolade is becoming the pound for pound #1 amateur in the world, in topping the world title that he has and the other continental championships. And this is a guy who he would tell you himself, he used to be ridiculously obese. He's a big, tall guy. He was an absolute balloon by his own admission, and he's lost a hell of a lot of weight, and he's gone in shape, and he keeps getting in better shape. He did go up to super heavyweight for the 2017 European Open to allow his heavyweight training partner to compete, who had to pull out through injury. But Erman went on and he won the super heavyweight title. Didn't really pull on a great amount of weight. And he's come here, and people are looking at him, and they're saying that's the best shape they've ever seen him in. They're saying people are saying he's just looking fantastic. He's a big hitter. He's known for knockouts. He can go the distance as well. He will get top position and keep you there. He's submitted a guy with mother's milk. You know,
One of my absolute favourite IMMAF submissions of all time, except from maybe the one we're going to talk about in a second. But yeah, mother's milk. I mean, I remember when Mark Goddard tapped you out with that. So
he didn't. That's a lie. That is an absolute that. This is a stitch up, isn't it? I rolled with Mark. I think he tried it, but I don't tap to mother's milk. And I think we're going to roll tomorrow, and he's welcome to try. I won't tap to mother's milk. I'll tap to his knee bars. Jesus Christ. I'll tap in an instant to his knee bars. They're scary. But, yeah, as we were saying, and Erman, he's really excited to make history. He wants to join that very short list of fighters who have won 2 World Championships gold medals. And I believe, is he in the running to be one of the first fighters to win gold 3 times in a year? He won European Open, and the Asian Open, and if he goes for the world, he's making history, and it's something that really excites him. And I think he is wanting to go pro. He is about 36 years old, I believe. He came to MMA late in life, and you know, he does want to move on and make the best that he can with the time that he has left.
yeah, he intimated to both myself and you that this could potentially be the last time we see Erman Smajic in an IMMAF cage. Will he go out on top with that IMMAF gold medal with even more records to his name? Who knows? I think the odds are certainly in his favour, and very strongly. Anyway, last fight to talk about on our preview. A man who we discussed briefly yesterday. Well, 2 men we actually discussed briefly yesterday. But he's done it again. He's just done it again. Well, I'm walking through to, I believe, interview Ali Smith, and I walk past cage 2, see the UK fighters shouting. I can hear Chris Reese's voice. It's a very distinct Welsh accent. Mm-hmm. Look over, and I can hear Chris Reese shouting, "Omoplata, go for the omoplata, go for the omoplata." I'm thinking, he's having a laugh. You don't see that in amateur MMA. Next thing you know, Christian Leroy Duncan pulls out an omoplata. I think the first ever in an IMMAF cage, potentially the first ever in amateur MMA. Who knows? But definitely the first in an IMMAF. And he now proceeds to the quarterfinals to face the European champion of Italy, Dario Belandi, in what is going to be an absolutely awesome matchup if they both deliver to the level we know they can.
Yeah, my hype jobs are proving well so far. We've got Rao at India, and now we've got Christian Leroy Duncan with Team UK. Yesterday, it was all about his striking for the most part, and today it was such a rounded performance. Again, it was phenomenal in its own way, and for different reasons from yesterday as well. He showcased his striking at times, but he also showcased a sometimes uncommon feat that when you're getting taken down and you are getting pinned, that you can get back up, and he was continuously doing that.
That's like a Rocky speech, that.
He was getting, because his striking is unorthodox, and I guess, it's amateur, not the finished product, as I say. He can leave himself open, to takedowns, and he was fighting a Kazakh opponent. And as we've seen with this championships, a win over a Kazakh opposition is a big thing with how that team is performing and how good they are. He's incredibly rounded. He showcased his striking, he showcased takedown defense, and that he can get up when being taken down. And then just when you think it's going to a decision, he pulls off that omoplata. He was on the bottom. I think he escaped. He came round from the bottom. He got his leg over from guard, and he just cranked it on, started sitting up, and you saw the shoulder going, and the tap came. Yeah. It was rounded, wonderful performance, showcased every aspect of his game.
Yeah. Look, and Belendi's going to be no walkover by any stretch of the imagination. He implements that very effective wrestling style that is often synonymous with Italy. They're very, very good on the ground. They're very, very good at keeping an opponent there. But Christian Leroy Duncan, he's physically imposing. He's interesting to watch, and he's unorthodox as well. He's got spinning kicks, crescent kicks, omoplatas in the bank. So we don't really know what we're going to see next, and potentially that could throw Belandi off. Well, that wraps up our day 2 review and day 3 preview for the 2017 IMMAF World Championships here on mynextmatch.com. Don't forget you can follow all the latest results and updates on the website as well as on social media and IMMAF social media as well. Don't forget to check out their Facebook. Jordan's amazing photos.
Thank you very much.
Don't put me over too much. I'm messing, mate. I'm messing. His great photos are over on there, so you guys can check them out as well. And don't forget to keep sharing as well, because I think, is it 100? Forget 100?
Yeah, 100.
We're not going to get 100, are we?
100. Danny, send it to your mates.
Go on, the magician. Send. I love him.
Stop it.
He's my favourite.
Yeah. It's my favourite Irishman.
Northern Irish, or?
Yeah, it's Ireland.
Right.
We're all Irish.
Big space, that is.
We're all Irish.
That sounds like a Danny course saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. But yeah, from me, Andreas, Georgiou, and from Jorden, Curran, that wraps up episode 2 from the 2017 World Championships. We'll see you very soon.